back to the polls. Now, Ghana loses about $50 million annually to illegal fishing activities. To actually apprehend culprits, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture is intensifying its patrol activities on the high seas. Joining me now in studio to look at government's intention in the fisheries industry. Joining me now is the policy analyst, Che Kojo Yamwa, who is the programs manager for Friends of the Nation and Natural Resource Management Civil Society Organization. Kojo, it's good to see you in our studios.
Yes.
Let's talk about the efforts now. First of all, what's your assessment of the national plan and policies we have so far on the high seas, and how do we need to improve that?
Yes, on the scale of 100, we are not doing so bad. When we look at the national policies and the framework, I'm talking about the legislative framework for fisheries. We are doing around 90%, that is good. There are a couple of areas that needs that we work on it, we review them to reflect the national and global and international trends. What it is that the main issue has got to do with the implementation.
Right.
And that is where there are a couple of challenges. And we know that one is that the issue of commitment in quotes on the part of government has not been adequate. And that has been over 3 decades, about 30 years, government has not been too adequately committed to addressing the issue. When I say commitment, what do I mean? I mean that the resources that is needed to implement the fisheries laws are not adequately provided.
For you, and sorry for cutting through, but for you, what's paramount in fixing things and making things right? Because obviously you're not enthused about the way we're going with our implementation. So what's the problem there, and how do we fix it?
Yes, importantly, there must be the resources, and that's why we are very happy that the minister at the conference had indicated that the government is committed in providing vessels. That is very important. You need to provide capacity for surveillance, capacity for enforcement. You need to be out there on the sea because the sea is wide and big. So that is an important thing. Then also, you need to ensure that the enforcement officers have the required competence and then the skills, and then they have the knowledge as well. Because when they see an illegality, they must be able to know that this is an illegality, and then what evidence do we need to gather. Beside that, importantly, the prosecutorial process is very important. What it is that when vessels or offenders are arrested and taken to the judicial system, if they are not persuasive and deterrent sanctions, then you see that the gain in doing wrong will let others still continue to do wrong. What do I mean by that? For instance, if the sanctions are low, and then the gains in doing wrong in terms of how much economic rent they are able to appropriate is higher, then they will continue to do that. So the prosecutorial process is very important.
But the challenge there with the issue of prosecutions is that you're dealing with sometimes vessels that are not from in-country. You have foreigners doing a lot of activities here on our seas as well. So if that's the challenge, how do we address that? We know there are a number of international conventions and laws that guide all of this, but that is increasingly becoming a challenge for instance, the sector ministry and the agencies that are supposed to enforce the laws. You agree?
Yes. However, the fisheries laws is good in that regard. What it is,
you think it's sufficient?
Yes. What it is that for the fishing trawlers, no foreigner is supposed to own that. So it has to be a partnership with a Ghanaian owning. So there is a Ghanaian, sort of partner to that. So that makes prosecutorial issues quite easy if we want to go strictly by the law.
Yeah, but you agree that it's not all the vessels that belong to someone who's from the country. There are foreigners who are even doing bigger fishing activities, and I'm using that term loosely, as compared to these trawlers that you're referring to, isn't it?
Yes, these trawlers are also the industrial trawlers. So these are also bigger fishing vessels. So it's good that the law, fisheries law, provides that you must have a Ghanaian partner in this, and that is very important. However, we have an amended Fisheries Act 880 that says that the minimum fine for these vessels when they are engaged in illegal fishing, which we call illegal or reported unregulated fishing, must be a minimum of $1 million US. And it's been difficult to apply that section of the law for a lot of the vessels. However, if there is a will, there will be the way. So we believe that there is no use having a law if we cannot implement it to the latter. So we are advocating, encouraging government to ensure that the laws are applied. That makes it deterrent enough. Elsewhere, there are very stricter measures in dealing with illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, even including confiscation of a whole fishing vessels to the state and others. So we should be able to be bold enough to have some of these things, because when the fish collapses, a lot of the fisher folks along the line, and you could see that about 10% of Ghanaians are directly and indirectly engaged in the fishing. So we lose these, benefits in terms of livelihood, in terms of the economics, in terms of food security, because Ghana will also consume a lot of fish. And then when fish is also going down, it's also a national security issue. So dealing with fish, we must approach it with all the seriousness and all the commitment that is needed.
You've been going to the communities as well. As a civil society organization, I'm sure that there are some key issues that are emerging from the engagements that you've been doing with these communities. Well, what's top on the list for you?
Yes, importantly, the measures for close season is very important. However, dealing with the illegal fishing is top on the list. The high harvesting of juvenile fish is high on the list. If we do not arrest these and stop these or reduce this, the measures that we put in place is like taking a basket to sea to fetch water, or taking a basket to fetch water. What it is that when we continue to harvest the fish, the juvenile fish, at the rate they do, I mean the smaller fishes who have not matured, who have not spawned, who have in lay terms lay eggs, that means that we are fishing down the drain and we are not allowing the fish stock to reproduce, to replenish. That is the basic theory of sustainability of natural resources. So we must allow the resource to replenish. So that is top on the agenda. So anything that we do, we must concentrate in getting the illegal fishing, especially those that arrive in harvesting of higher levels of juvenile fish, stopped. So we would say that for us, it is no use providing support for fisher folks in terms of highly subsidized premix. We should rather be looking at removing all the illegal nets that is contributing to harvesting the juvenile fishes, and then having a proper replacement scheme in place. When we do this, then we add on the close season and other fisheries management measures. Then we move on, and then we can see the gains, the recovery that we want to see in our fisheries. And it's very important we do that because of the fact that a lot of the coastal communities have nothing to do. They have no economic activity except for fishing. So when fishing goes down, it affects everybody, affects their education, their health, nutrition, everything.
How about the concern that part of the reason has also got to do with the fact that these fisher folk are not educated enough on the dangers of the activities that they are involved in?
Education has levels, and I would say that there's high sensitization for most of these fisher folk. When you speak to them, they will tell you that, oh, we are aware these measures are not good. However, the moral suasion doesn't change. We need the enforcement to be in place because we have done a lot of education to the extent that section of fishermen say we have stopped this illegal fishing, and their brothers will continue to use those illegal fishing and have some gains. So why would they stop and stay and be hungry? So they have to join in. So what is very important is that there's need for a commensurate enforcement mechanism that is sustainable to also ensure that people do the right thing. So the voluntary compliance is good, the moral suasion that don't do this is good. However, without a commensurate enforcement mechanism, it makes it difficult even for those who want to comply to continue to comply. So that is why the commitment, the political will to conduct these enforcement must come in. However, we have seen that there have been elements of political negative influence and interferences in enforcement, where arrests are made and you hear some interferences from political act. So those must also be dealt with so that everybody who is caught or anybody who is caught knows that they will face the full rigors of the law.
But there's also this problem about light fishing. It's not necessarily new, but the concern is that the activities are increasing by the day and it's not sustainable. What's your expected advice on that? Are we able to effectively deal with the issue of light fishing?
Yes, light irrigated fishing is something that is also affecting the fisheries resources. However, the issue of the enforcement has got to be an issue. There's a law banning light, so we need to enforce it. And we need to ensure that there is a sustainable mechanism of doing this. If we want to do it, it's very, very easy to do. The fact is that everybody taking light aggregating device to sea start from the land. So when there is mechanism to inspect along the landing sites and then also check at sea, both of these would help address the issue of taking some of these things to sea. So the issue is about a commitment. The strategies are there to apply, and we can easily do that. What is most important is that some of our fisher folks, they go just close to Ivory Coast, and then when they fish there, they do not carry all these illegal fishing gears there. Why? Because the laws are stricter. So
our counterparts are doing quite well in terms of enforcing the law as compared to us.
Yes, and interestingly, 95% of the fisher folks there are Ghanaians, and they are applying with the law there. So it's not about the fisher folks being recalcitrant. It's about the laws being weakly enforced and giving room for fishers to do what they do. So that is why we need to look at that. It's very important that we put in place a sustainable mechanism to do so. Unfortunately for us, we have a fisheries enforcement unit who are ready, very committed. We have the Marine Police who are ready, very committed. We need to support them. We need to resource them. And then we need a political backing for them to do their work without any interference. When that happens, we'll all be happy. The fish we have on our food will be there. And then we can all, embrace ourselves that we have done something greater.
I'm grateful, Che Kojo Yeboah, for joining us here on The Pulse.